Good afternoon, everyone. So you already heard a little bit about health and a little bit about software and AI and the intersection of that, and that's really my passionate. So I'm a passionate bioengineer, and I really like to work between that intersection. So that's what I'll be bringing you today, and I want to show you the revolution that's already happening in AI. You see it every day when you use ChatGPT, but you can also see it already in the life sciences and how drug development and new treatments are getting to the market faster. So just a little bit of my background. I always like to hear that when I listen to a lecture of someone to understand their path until here. So that's what I'm bringing you. So I also did bioengineering, just like Celia. So it's great to see a buddy of mine, but with a lot of more experience than me, to be here on this stage today as well. And after finishing my degree, I went to a small startup here in Porto, developing AI algorithms for healthcare. And now I've transitioned to Loca. So it's funny because I was in a startup developing AI, and now I'm helping startups to develop AI. So I'm kind of on the other side. Like I was presented, I do a little bit of different side hustles. The most funny one that I wanted to share with you was the Global Shapers community, that it's basically the volunteering arm of the World Economic Forum, and it's basically a network of young leaders spread out to the world, where you have different local chapters where we develop social initiatives. So if you're interested in that, please have a look. It's a really interesting initiative. So after that, I want to start to give you some expectations for this talk. So don't stress out, don't be worried. I won't be getting into a very typical, deep technical breakdown into AI. You won't learn how to develop AI today. I won't bore you with that. Why not? Because there are already excellent tutorials. There are thousands and thousands of courses right now, so that you can develop, and you can already spend hours developing that knowledge at your home. So today I will just give you a glimpse of how AI is impacting the drug discovery market. So first, I want to give you a little bit of what's the drug development life cycle. Don't get too scared about the namings, but basically, just like Sally explained, health takes a long time. Health is kind of boring in the sense that it takes a long time to make sure that everything works well and that it's safe to reach patients. So the drug development life cycle takes around 10 to 15 years to develop one drug, and it takes a lot of money as well. And as you can see here, it's kind of a funnel. So first you have the drug discovery phase, then you have the preclinical development, then the clinical development, and then the regulatory approval as well, that it's super important. And today I'm going to focus on just the first part, but as you can see, this is a funnel, and you start with a large amount of compounds and you start reducing it down. And in that drug discovery, the first stage, you have three main phases: the target identification, the lead identification, and the lead optimization. And again, I don't want you to scare you and to bore you with strange words that you don't know, so I will explain a little bit. So what is the target identification? The targets are basically proteins, and the leads are molecules. And I know that you don't know necessarily what this means, so I'll try to make an analogy. So let's imagine that a disease is like a bug in your code. You have a bug, something doesn't work, and it's kind of a disease in the human body. And you know that there will be a line of code or a chunk of code that is the fault for that bug, and that's the cause of the bug. And basically, those are the proteins. So you can find proteins in the body that are linked to a specific disease, just like a specific chunk of code is linked to your bug that you're trying to find out. And a molecule is what helps you link to the protein. So we link molecules to the protein to inhibit the disease. Just like you can change the code, you can adapt the code so that you can prevent the bug from happening. So I want you to keep that analogy for the rest of the talk so you don't get too lost. So like I told you, these are all funnels. So the first funnel is the target identification. So basically, you need to find what's the cause of your bug, right? Just like we need to find what's the cause of the disease. And there are thousands of lines of code, just like there are thousands of proteins that you can consider. So this is the first part where you have to take into account a lot of things. The second part is the lead identification. So after you can consider different lines of code and you think, okay, maybe you have 5 chunks of code that you think are related to your bug, then you need to find a molecule that will connect to that protein that might inhibit it. So that's the second part. And again, you have thousands of ways to fix your bug, right? So you can find there are thousands of ways and thousands of molecules that you can also use to inhibit that protein. And then you actually, so there are different molecules, there are different ways to fix the bug, right? And when you find you have like 5 different ways to fix your bug, you need to find what's the optimal way to fix it, because you can put like a dark tape, right, on it, or you can actually do it properly. And it's just like here. So you have different molecules, and even if it's the specific molecule that you want, you might need to, for example, reduce the toxicity, because it might be toxic to the human body. Although it does the job well and it inhibits the protein, it might be toxic. So it might not be the perfect solution for you. So you might need to optimize that. And again, it's a funnel, so you can consider different molecules and you can optimize them. So as you can see here, there are 3 main funnels that you need to take into account. And this is basically all developed in the lab until some years ago. So basically researchers had like 10,000 of proteins that they could consider, and they would experiment and do like a cycle that they would experiment, see what are the results, and try again with a different protein or a different molecule. How is AI actually helping this? It's reducing and it's enabling a faster development. So instead of doing everything and all of the experiments within the lab by researchers, what we do is basically that we simulate all of those tests and all of those developments with AI, using AI, and then the researchers can validate what we did and our suggestions. So it's still a cycle. It's a cycle between AI developers and researchers in the lab. So they tell us what they want to look for, we try to answer their calls, and then they test everything in the lab as well. So how are we actually doing this? And this is the interesting part. We are using the biology, what I like to call the biology's version of ChatGPT. So just like you have ChatGPT, that is a large language model, you have biological large language models. On ChatGPT, you know that you can, for example, summarize a text, or you can write an email, right? So what it's used to train a ChatGPT, it's natural language. So it's words, text that we normally speak. Here, what we train, the same models, and it's using the same architecture, we train it with biological languages. So for proteins, we use amino acids, and molecules, we use atoms and their connections. And for DNA and RNA, we use nucleic acids. So it's kind of an alphabet, like we have the 26 letters, we have 20 amino acids, for example, for proteins. So it's something very similar. So like ChatGPT knows a lot about how we speak, how we think, these type of models know a lot about the protein, the molecules, and the DNA. So, a bit disconfigured, but basically how LLMs and large language models are transforming how machine learning is applied to natural language, BioLLMs are transforming how machine learning is applied to biological languages. In terms of the timeline, this is something that I think it's important to pass. If you remember, like, I would say 4 months ago, or even 1 year ago, when we used ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever model, you were not so confident on using it, right? We need to proofread it. Even if you had like a very smart prompt, a very detailed prompt, you wouldn't really need to proofread it to make sure that it was giving the right answer that you wanted, and you also needed to tweak it a little bit in the end. The email didn't always get it right, and with code, at least that's my personal impression, is that I couldn't really trust it. But nowadays, the development is huge, and nowadays, I myself use it a lot to develop code as well, and all of us know that it's getting better and better. So just like with ChatGPT and this type of models, these are always getting better and better as well. So the models are increasing of size and a lot of parameters, as well as with time goes by, more models are being developed in bigger models. So like you are having a big impact on your life, and AI is each day that passes is having a bigger impact on your life, and it's making you more productive, probably. It's doing the same with drug discovery, and we are being able to design new drugs and new treatments much faster than we used to. So now I want to present you some real use cases of how this really happens using this type of models. This is what we call the variant effect prediction. So basically here, with this model, this is a model trained DSM model. It's from Meta, from Facebook, and it's basically trained on proteins. So it's very smart and knows everything about proteins. And what we do is that we try to understand where the mutation comes from. So this is kind of interesting in the sense that we all know that natural selection exists, right? So the smartest and the smartest people and the ones that survive the better are the ones the genetic code will be passed on. And here it's interesting because the model is trying to guess the probability of the amino acid that is used on the protein, and that's directly correlated with the pathogenicity of the protein. So basically it's linked to the toxicity. So if it's not probable that that protein exists, it's because it's probably toxic. Because if it's not toxic, then it would probably exist. So this is one of the use cases that we work on a lot. That's a lot of companies that are trying to develop new treatments, for example, for a given cancer, they need this type of predictions. Another interesting thing on the lead identification, so how you basically connect, remember the code, right, the bug of code, how you connect the bug of code with the possible solution, we also have models for that. And in this case, you have a very smart model on proteins, a very smart model on molecules, and you can actually use both to get smarter representations of it and connect that information and then train it like you would train any machine learning model. You would teach it if it's making a good prediction or not. So you really understand if the two things are connected or not. How, like you in the code, you would test if that specific line of code would actually fix your bug or not. And finally, lead optimization. This one is what I was telling you. So it's trying to optimize the molecule itself to improve a specific property. So this property might be toxicity, might be solubility, for example, so that you make sure that it drives through the blood. So if you are developing a treatment, right, you need to make sure that it's going through the blood and it's getting to the places that you want to target. So this is another option, and it's using reinforcement learning. So if you've heard on the news, for example, that there are models that beat humans at playing chess or at playing Go, it's the same technology. So basically we teach it like we teach, for example, a child, like this is the correct way to go, and it's tests, and it's a cycle of learning. The other way, it's not the same thing, but on reinforcement learning, you really you tell it what's the correct answer, and then you go back, and you go back, and you go back. So it's a really similar thing like we use outside of healthcare. It's the same technology that AI developers use, but in this case, we use it for health. So today, I want to, if you don't remember anything from my talk, I want to have 3 takeaway messages from today, just in case. So I want to tell you that the AI revolution in life sciences is already happening. I think that you all know that what BioLLMs are now. It's the biology's version of ChatGPT, right? So it's already guiding the drug discovery. So it's not something that AI will go to healthcare and reach healthcare one day, no. Actually, the companies that are developing new medicine and new treatments now are already using AI. The second thing is that the pace of innovation is exponential. So when you feel like ChatGPT or AI models are getting better and better for your day-to-day life, remember that in healthcare, that's already happening as well. And that's having a direct impact. When you will need the treatment, it will also get to you faster. And finally, this is just the beginning, and I've already met a lot of you today following the guidelines of previous speakers, and funny enough, I've already met a lot of people that transitioned from health to the tech world because they didn't like this or didn't like that, or they were interested on another thing. So I think I want to share that this is an opportunity as well, that you can actually find an intersection. It's not easy, but you can find an intersection between tech and between healthcare if that's your passion. And you can also find intersections in other fields. So if you like a given product or a given field, you can find tech, I'm sure you can find tech being applied to that field. So I'm really passionate about health, so I use AI together with health, and that's my thing, let's say. But I think that all of you, if you have hobbies and if you like that intersection, I think the growth is exponential, and I'm sure you'll find a middle ground between those two passions. And just to finish, I want to finish with a quote from Demis Hassabis. He's basically the Nobel Prize winner for chemistry from last year. And he said that how would drug discovery look like if you did it from an AI first perspective? So not as an add-on that would help, but really think first on the first part has AI, and then use the lab to validate everything and make sure that everything is correct as well. Thank you very much.